Hello, stranger. It's been a minute since we last met. By the way, just got in town, and I won't bet. Young in this club, dark sky.
Usually I can. Hey. Baby, I wonder. Put your face on me. Hey, everybody. Don't hesitate, no, don't you? Just say you will. Well. Share. Just say you will. Come through and chill. What's up, you guys? What is up? How are you guys doing on this Sunday? I hope everyone is doing wonderful. I'm so glad that you guys are tapped in today. It's been a long time. I feel like it's been so long since I've been doing these Earth is School episodes. And if you watch my episode yesterday, then you see me talk about my challenge in I'm trying to get this music going. My challenge in doing my episodes again consistently. And so this is my attempt. I'm not even attempting, I'm doing. And so this is that. This is me pushing myself. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do what do you call it? If I'm going to do video on all of my episodes. I've been kind of playing around with it. So we're just going to see. I'm going to see if you guys like me being in video more, or if you guys prefer or just don't care of me being in audio. So we will see. Let me know. Let me know in the comments if y'all if y'all want to see me. Some people said before that they like to listen while they're driving and cooking and doing other things. So I don't know. Maybe I just end up, it just becomes a surprise every time. I don't know. But we will see. I want to give you guys a chance to come in. Today's topic is going to be such a good topic. A conversation I think is really needed, really helpful. And it's going to be about single motherhood. It's going to be about single motherhood, but from a perspective that you guys are probably not used to hearing. I think there's a lot of different perspectives of single parenting, period. But there is a certain conversation that I think should be had surrounding single motherhood. I'm just all about solutions. So I think that this conversation, this angle that I'm going to take this Earth is School episode, it's going to be about solutions. It's going to be a really a big eye opener for a lot of people. And if you're not a single mother, if you're not single parenting, it doesn't mean that you can't get something from this. Everybody knows a single parent, and you never know, how things will end up. So I think this is really good just for the collective, just for everyone to tune in and say their piece about it and what they think. And I mean, it's kind of funny the way single parenting goes, and people kind of like, I've been a single parent for going on 4 years now. The rest of my life, I was either married or in a really deep committed relationship. And I think maybe when I was a single parent, unless I seen that experience, I didn't think much of it. It kind of like single parenting kind of reminds me of like what a lot of Black Americans do to our experience. Like when you hear about a Black American, like, okay, not everyone, right? But there's a certain group of Black Americans that hear about something that went on, something racist, a racial situation that went on with another Black American that had nothing to do with them. And there's a group of us that just be like, oh, that, that has nothing to do with me. That's y'all. And I don't think that single parenthood should go like that. I think that whether you like it or not, even when you are not a single parent, you are a part of, like, you still are affected by this because you're in the world and it is people here that are single parents and that are being raised by single parents, and your bosses and your the people that you interact with and everything that are, it's just a part of our collective. So if that sounded too far-fetched for you guys, I love this quote by Emmett Till's mother. Emmett Till's mother says this quote that I can never forget. And she said that before what happened to her son took place, she used to be like, what happens to them Black folk down south, like, that's them. Like, that's not my life. And she said until this happened to her son, she realized that what happens to the folks down south, up east, up north, wherever, it happens to her too. It's still the same experience, even though she hadn't experienced that yet. And I just love that quote because it gets so much deeper than that. It has a lot to do with my show, with Earth is School, with the slogan that I created for us, as us all. It doesn't matter what your race is, Earth is School. It doesn't matter where your position is or anything. It's just about us all being here. And as much as we need to consider and have grace for ourselves, going back to the subject at hand, which is single parenting, if you're not that, you also need to consider and have grace, even for a child that has been single parented. Maybe their father have been raising them the whole time and they didn't get love from their mother. They didn't get attention from their mother. And that ends up being the person that your child ends up being with. Like, there's so many different ways that we're connected that it's just silly when we try to, like, when we dismiss something because we're not the ones having that personal experience. So that's what I feel like single parenthood is. From my few years of experiencing this, that is what I have seen. I have seen single parents being isolated and just pushed off to the side as, okay, that's a y'all thing. But really it's a us thing. That's how we're supposed to feel about children. Like, what happened to that? Like, all of the children are our children. We should protect all the kids, not just yours. So I just kind of see it as the same thing. And yeah, I really want to get into this conversation. It's so funny how my audio goes when when I'm not doing audio. I mean, how the show goes when I'm not doing audio. So if you're here with me, then let me know that you're here and you're listening when you're feeling whatever you're if you're resonating with what I'm going to share. Um ooh. Okay, guys, hold on. Let me pull up a few things. No, don't tell me. Don't tell me that my notes didn't transfer. Okay, give me a second. It's so funny because I'm trying to find out which one I want to do more, like as far as if I want to do video for my show for the Earth is School or audio. And every time I do audio, it's just more proof that I should do video. All right, let me grab these bullet points that I have. Hopefully it doesn't go out. Let's see. Okay. Okay, good. So we're still in this thing. Everybody's still here. All right. So this is such a deep subject. I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective because I don't want to discuss this conversation from a I don't know how to put it, but I just don't want to start the single motherhood conversation from like a look at us, oh it's us, oh you have to be the father and the mother, and which I don't agree with. Um I really want to start this off from a solution base, right? So what I feel is that there's no point in me right now talking about why it's hard for single parents, right? Single mothers, I'm going to be more specific, why it's hard. Like, why is it hard? It's obvious it's hard because you're doing it by yourself, right? You're doing it by yourself, and you don't have maybe you don't have a support system. Maybe you don't have that masculine energy in the house to help balance everything out and help you with the kids, right? Men are really powerful, and kids are always trying their moms. So these to me are obvious things. I don't feel like I really need to do an episode on that. More so, I wanted to touch on the solution to like something that I noticed. Me looking at other single moms. There's a single mother um that I subscribe to. Her name is, I think it's Chrissy, strong mommy Chrissy, and I love her channel. She's so inspiring. She has 9 children, and she is doing her thing on YouTube. And I was just like, I was watching her videos one day and watching her express some things about single motherhood, and I was reading the comments, and I was noticing this pattern of like, I don't know. I was just kind of looking at my life as a single mother and what has changed, like the things that were really, really hard for me years ago and what has gotten easier. And I was kind of comparing and reflecting on other people and their experiences that they were sharing in the comments. And it brought me to this epiphany or this conclusion that there's a lot of things, despite, let me make this clear. I'm not talking about money. Okay. I'm not talking about making it harder as far as not having the support system and not having the masculine energy. These things are a given, okay? Single parenthood is not normal. This is an abnormal, ghetto ass situation, okay? You guys have seen me talk about this. So, again, I don't feel like I need to do an episode on why it's hard for us for obvious reasons, okay? There are obvious reasons why being a single mother is really challenging and draining and stressful and can be depressing, okay? I don't think that's important to focus on, because where's the solution in that? What I noticed in watching the videos and reading these women and their experiences, and comparing it to myself, is that there are things that we do, there are decisions that we make, and I'm not talking about being a single parent. I'm talking about decisions that you make within your single parenthood, things that you do, the way that we go about certain things that make being a single mother, or that make our journey as single mothers harder. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to focus on. Again, it's a given that you need support. It takes a village. It really, really does. You need family, you need friends, you need the father or father figures. Okay, your girls and your boys need mentors around. All this stuff is a given, right? I'm talking about the things that we do on our single motherhood journey that makes it harder, or things that can make it easier. Okay? So, um one of the things that I wanted to touch on is when your kids are young and independent. That's the first thing that I wanted to touch on, because I was seeing these women talk about how they couldn't leave the house. There was one sister that expressed how it had been years and she'd never been to the grocery store by herself. Like every single time she has to take all of her children to the grocery store. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. Like it really, took me down memory lane. And I'm like, yo, that was a reality for me. What has changed? Why is that no longer a thing in my last, 3.5 years of single parenting? And the reason why is because my children are older now. They're older now and they're able to stay home alone. And so I remember, and maybe I shouldn't even say what we do to make our single motherhood journey harder. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I should say the things that is making it harder, right? The things that you can control, that you do have control over, or just bringing it out to the reality that this is why it's harder right now. Not the given stuff. Again, I feel like I'm going to have to say that 100 times through this episode. Not the given stuff, right? Not the fact that you don't have support, you don't have a village, and all that stuff, right? I'm just speaking on things that we can control, or things that are going to change that maybe you don't realize. If you're a single mother and you have 3 to 5 small children, and you don't know because you haven't got there yet, you haven't gotten where I am yet, and so you think that this is like diabolical. You're just like, this is so insane. How can I live the rest of my life like this? And you don't see that in just a few years, if you do what we're going to talk about, you will be able to set yourself up to make it a little easier because you will have children that will be able to assist you. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. And so yeah, when you have children that are really young, you obviously it's a little bit more demanding. You can't leave them home alone. You know, they require a little bit more attention than older kids do. And I wanted to start off with that because I wanted to remind you mothers that are dealing with that to remember that it is temporary. To remember that this is temporary and your children or your child is going to grow and it's going to get a lot easier. I remember, going to meetings and having go-sees and different gigs, different acting gigs and stuff, and really trying to like stay consistent with my dream and making money, and then also having to juggle, having to raise my children and be at home, not being able to leave them home. And my brother even at one time had to move in with me. Like he left from Oklahoma and came to Atlanta to move in with me so that I could have those meetings and make my money and be okay with leaving the kids. So not everyone can have that. I'm actually really grateful for that because my single motherhood journey has not been a bunch of support anyway. So just telling the story just making me realize again, like, that was a thing for me, and I'm really grateful for that. But a lot of you guys don't have that, and so I want to speak to you women who don't have that support and that kind of feel stuck, and you're just like, damn, like how am I supposed to go on? Like how can I continue with my business? How can I keep this job if I'm struggling to find a babysitter and my child or my children is too young to stay at home? It's temporary. It is temporary. So please remember that, and please open yourself up. Even when it doesn't look like there's opportunities, there really are. This goes back to what you guys see me say all the time about the mind. Okay, so if you're telling yourself, there's no support, there's no way, it's never going to happen, there's no way that I could ever come up with this solution and do this and have it where I can leave and go and take care of this, my kids are too small. If you're telling yourself that, your subconscious is going to say, yes, you're right, that's your reality, and we're going to make sure that it stays that reality. But if you tell yourself that you do have options, that there is other ways, you just haven't came up with them yet, then your mind and your reality is going to start creating those ways. So I just want to encourage you women that are in that position to do that and to just remember that it's temporary. Going into that, coming from that, I want to go into when we as moms, when we do this thing that I feel like men are really good and helpful for in the house, which is like balancing out our nurturer energy. Like sometimes we're being such moms that we won't we won't make our kids do chores. We won't be as hard on them as sometimes it's needed. Sometimes the daddy is there to help us do that. And as women, as single mothers, you may not have that. Maybe you've never had that, so you don't even know what that looks like. And so I think that this is why I say that single parenting is so abnormal, even for men. Being a single dad, I know a lot of single dads. I've counseled a lot of single fathers. It's so abnormal. It just doesn't make sense. You're not supposed to be in that masculine or that feminine energy all the time and be able to switch and all that. It does take a different kind of mindset. So I just think that you have to be aware that as mothers, you're such a nurturer. You have such this softness to you most of the time that you don't want to, like, you may look at having your kids do chores as that's like you're overworking them, versus the father would be like, them kids need to get in there and do them chores. So I'm encouraging you women to do that. I'm encouraging you guys to set up a schedule, get a bulletin board in your house, invest in a whiteboard, and make a schedule and tell the kids, hey, you're going to get the kitchen on these days. You're going to get the dining room. Da, 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 and, da, da, da. And the reason why I think this is so crucial is because what I see is, and I've been there before as well, we get really frustrated with our kids because they're not cleaning up right. They're not taking care of their daily tasks or whatever. As parents, even parents that have a partner helping them in the house, we put a lot of pressure on children, and we get really frustrated because we think that after you tell them something 1, 2, 50, 100 times, that they're supposed to do it, and they're supposed to just know how to do it. And the reality is, as a parent, it doesn't matter if you're a single parent or not, a part of your job as a parent is realizing that you are going to repeat yourself. You're just going to repeat yourself, okay? So if that's a pet peeve of yours, then you need to get over it, because it's a part of parenting. Parenting is synonymous with repeating yourself, okay? So because that's a reality for all parents, I believe that you can make it a little easier, and this can go for parents that aren't single parents too. You can make your life a little easier if you set up schedules, and maybe not schedules all the time, right? Not everyone does well with a strict schedule, but most definitely get a whiteboard in your house and set it up where your children are doing something each day that is helping you around the house. Even if you have really small children, you can you can have them pick up their toys. You can train them really young to organize the shoes by the door, whatever kind of thing. But I just see us as single moms, and I have so much grace for us because I understand everyone should have grace for a single parent, because parents that have help get frustrated, take their anger out on their kids, become overwhelmed, become overstimulated, and you have help in the house. So, what do you think is happening when a person doesn't have someone else to lean on or to tag and be like, hey, I'm going through it right now. I'm grieving this death that I'm dealing with and these bills. I need you to tap in and talk to the kids right now. What do you think is happening when the parent doesn't have that assistance? It's most definitely another level. So I have so much grace for us, but I also see that we we either do things or we don't do things, and it makes it harder for us. So if it's already a given for you to repeat yourself, if it's already a given for you to be overstimulated sometimes and frustrated sometimes with your kids, why not get a whiteboard and set up some chores and make it where it's a routine thing? Because we get so frustrated. We're like, why aren't you doing this? I said do this. Da 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 da. And I swear to y'all, I swear to you, for all parents, if you just set up a chalkboard or whatever in your house, even if you start off with paper and tape and a pencil, okay? If you just say Monday through Sunday, you're going to do one A, B, and C. It's going to change your life. You'll be so surprised how much children love structure, how much you need it and they need it. It's so real. Every time I do this, my life is easier. My parenting journey is easier. Even when I was married, it was easier. And when I fall off and I don't do this, it's harder. And when I get back on and I'm like, okay, you know what's missing right now? I haven't been keeping up with the bulletin board. And as soon as I do, we're back on track. So that's how I know that this formula works, okay? If you haven't tried it, don't knock it. Really try to set up something to where the kids can see a visual and where you're giving them tasks. Because I see a lot of single moms like, I have to clean up and I have to do this and I have to do this and do that. And I'm just like, why are you doing all that? Why are you not training up your kids to do that? Like, why are you not training them? That's your job. It's your job to prepare them for this world. And that means that they need to know how to clean right now, how to, clean up after themselves, how to scrub the toilets because they're going to have them when they get older, how to cook food because they're going to have to eat when they get older. So it's just like, why do you have children that are 10, 13, 15, 16, and they don't know how to do these things for themselves? Why are you doing everything you're on your own as a single parent, as a single mom? Don't do that to yourself. Train up your kids. Explain to them that this is a team thing and that this is a part of you raising them. If they are coming off like they're not going to feel like doing it, explain that to them and get them involved and let them see a visual to where they can go off of and they can follow by. Everyone needs that. I don't care who you are. School does not teach you structure. School does not teach you discipline and scheduling. I don't know who created this illusion that school does that. I hear so many parents, I would homeschool, but I really want my kids to know scheduling and structure. No one no one gets scheduling from slave training, from job training. School is training to work. So no one ever went to public school and then said, oh my God, I'm just so glad that I went to school. Now I can be an entrepreneur and I'm so disciplined. I'm able to stay on top of my schedule now. I'm consistent with what I want to do. Thank God for that public school. No, that's something that no one will ever say. So please get it out your head that because you're sending your kids to school, they are developing this sense of schedule and this sense of discipline. It's not. It starts at home and it ends at home. So it's going to make your life a lot easier when you invest in that board or the paper or whatever, and you hang it up on the wall and you say, okay, guys, every day I want you to do this. You got to do this. You got to do that. And of course, the younger that you start, the better. But I don't care if they're teenagers and you're just starting, do that now. Make your life easier now and make their life easier for the future by doing that. Thank me later, okay? Um, let's see. Another thing that we do as single moms that makes our parenting journey harder is we allow our children to be exposed to things. We allow them to be exposed to things that only us are going to have to take care of. No one is going to stress out and cry at night and be depressed like you are when your child loses their virginity at a really young age, or when you find out that your child is addicted to whatever, pornography, or that they have a fetish of something, or that they're into drugs really young because they've been on TikTok or whatever it is, okay? No one's going to be affected like that like you are. So it is your job as a mom, as a parent, as a single mother, for you to protect what your children are being exposed to, because you're the one that's going to have to handle it. So, I see so many of us stress out about the things that we have to take care of as far as what our children are doing. But then it's like, have you taken steps to make sure that they would not get influenced by that? Because if you're not, you're just making your job harder. You're literally making your single motherhood harder. You're making your parenting journey harder by allowing your children on TikTok every day or on YouTube all the time. Of course, this goes for any parent. It doesn't matter if you're single or not. But I'm just saying that when you got to do it by yourself, when you're the only referee and regulator in your home right now, why don't you protect your energy and protect your children's exposure and stop yourself from having to have unnecessary conversations about things that they wouldn't even know about if you didn't allow them to be exposed to that? And I love y'all. I'm coming from a place of love. But the reason I homeschool my kids, the reason I don't play about who they hang around and what they're exposed to is because I want to make my journey here easier. as a woman, as a mom, as an earthling, okay? Just as a soul having a human experience, I don't want to be talking to my kids about their addiction to sex at 12 and 13. I don't want to be talking about why you need to use a condom at 14. And you guys might think that this is normal because everyone feels like, oh, it's just that time. But trust me, when you don't expose your children to those things, it is not a just that time thing. It's been scientifically and psychologically proven that there is no thing of like, oh, puberty hit. Now it's time for me to be a freak. Now it's time for me to start masturbating and da 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 da. I know that's what we think. I know it's what we think, but it's really not. It's the exposure. It's the exposure of this sexual energy and whatever other energies that we're talking about, because it's not just sex that I'm talking about. It could be anything. It could be let me think. It could be your child being bullied, being a bully. Like kids are influenced by other kids, so you could be dealing with your child going through a mean girl phase where she's just being really rude and really mean, and you're just like, who the hell is this that I've been raising? But you letting her hang out with so and so who's acting like that, who has their own anger and their own hurts and stuff, and projecting. I'm just using this as an example, but there's just so many things that we expose our children to, and then we're like losing our mind on what we have to deal with of the result of that. But you could also be more protective. You can also be more careful with what you're exposing your children to, in those conversations that you're having with them so young right now, them having addictions to social media. You could do that later. You can focus on your career, your bills, your businesses, your childhood trauma, and all the other things that you have to focus on anyway, without having to focus on that right now. Okay? Come in. You already know it's no cap on the merci beaucoup. He had a Jeff on the show. So you guys know sometimes the kids come in and I have to speak to them. So just right now, I'm sitting here doing this show. My children just brought me an Indian taco, right? If you're not familiar, you guys probably seen me do the vlog of me making Indian tacos. So mommy has to take care of something right now. I cook all the time, but also I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they are independent enough to cook their own food. And so this makes my life easier right now because I needed to come on here and take care of this. I just got done doing a meeting right before I came on here. And these are things that I have to handle. And you can talk your shit if you don't understand. You can be like, oh, well, that's not the kid's job. And that's why you're supposed to have a man. But that's not my goddamn reality right now. Okay. That's not my reality. And I'm okay with that. You gotta do with what you have. Okay, you have to accept your reality and move forward with that. You gotta make it work. So right now, this is how you can make it work: making a schedule for your kids, or at least setting up a bulletin board where they have tasks that are helping you, so you're not cleaning up everything. I don't know why y'all still cleaning up y'all's kids rooms. I don't understand that, because you're supposed to be helping them to get used to cleaning up their environment. And I know that it's hard as a mother, as a nurturer. But mama, I'm encouraging you. You got to get to a point where you're like, okay, I want my children to be clean and to care about, their environments. I want my I don't, this is my thing. I don't want my boys to have to depend on a woman to feed them. I want, for if my boys are in a relationship with the woman and she cooks real good, that's fine. That's amazing. But I don't want them to be like, well, let me go ahead and stay in this relationship a little bit longer. I know it's toxic and I just left the house, but let me go back because I'm hungry. And I feel like when we relate to people, we only relate to people on a personal level. So maybe you don't know what I'm saying because you never seen this and you never been in this position. But I see it all the time. I see men stay in relationships all the time because they have a 9 to 5, they're working 12-hour shifts and they got to eat. And they don't know how to make their own lunches and they don't know how to feed themselves. It sounds silly, I know, but their parents didn't teach them how to cook. Their parents were cooking everything all the time and not training them up for that. So um I think that's what I was saying is is to oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't even saying that. Okay. Right, but that's still a good point that I made, right? Going back to the exposure. Uh Definitely make your life easier and do not expose your kids to so much. Let them be kids. Don't rush them into things. I don't know why we are wanting our daughters to wear crop tops at 12 and 13, or let me say this, okay? Because I don't really care what you do, right? I'm not judging you at all. But I'm saying that maybe your children are coming to you and saying, "Mom, can I do this and can I do that?" And I think that as mothers, you know what I think? I think that mothers, single parents in general, but I'm talking about single moms, I think that sometimes we feel guilty because our children do not have the opposite parent for whatever reason. And sometimes we feel like we have to say yes to certain things that our kids want to do. And sometimes you should. I'm not taking that away. But then other times you got to think about how harder you might be making your life from allowing your kids to go and stay over someone's house that you really don't agree with because you feel bad that they haven't had the opposite parent and they've been feeling bad and they've been kind of sad. But then now you have a situation because your child and went over there and been exposed to some stuff and it wasn't even worth it. So I hope this scenario is resonating with you because it is a lot of people's realities, and you can prevent this from happening by not exposing your babies to so many things at such a young age. You can make it a lot easier. Let's see. I think that we also make our single motherhood journey harder for us when we don't put ourselves first. When we put our children before us. I know that sounds crazy. You cannot be here for anybody until you are here for yourself. You might can do it every once in a while, sometimes, but I mean, if you really want to be present, you got to put yourself first, sis. So that means that you got to get your rest. You got to remind yourself to eat. I'm going to say that again. You got to get your rest. You got to remind yourself to eat. These are two things that mothers, even when they're married, have a hard time doing consistently, okay? This is why neuroscientists say that men sleep better than women because our brains are always on 100 anyway. So we already forget to eat and sleep anyway, okay? But then if you got so much on your plate because you're doing it on your own, you got to put yourself first. You got to rest so that way when you are addressing the kids and you're repeating yourself for the 8th time today, you can have a little bit more patience. You can give yourself and your children a little bit more grace. And I know this firsthand because I've had to have my friends be like, "Okay, Dayla, you forgot to eat. I need you to eat, sis. I need you to rest. I need you to shut everything down today. Tell the kids they're just going to watch movies today and you need to go to sleep, okay?" I've had to have my friends do that for me. And I appreciate that so much because this is reality. Like, this is reality, man. I be tired of us trying to make shit seem so like cookie cutter and ice cream with cherry on top. That's nobody's reality. Nobody's. Not even the happy married couples, okay? So put yourself first, sis. Make sure that you are eating throughout the day. Make sure that you are resting well. Make sure that you are taking some time to fix your face and look good, even if you're not even going anywhere. Depression is so real. Mental health is so real. And how can you be there for them? How can you raise your children if you are not present for yourself? So that is one thing that I think that we make our single motherhood journey harder whenever we don't show up for ourselves first. When we put everybody, including the kids, before ourself, before our mental health, before our own needs. This is the point where selfishness is good, where you do have to be selfish. Because if you haven't rested, if you haven't eaten, you're going to be more irritable. Life is still lifing like it is for everybody, you know? So please rest, eat, dress up sometimes, look good, give yourself a break when you can, all that good stuff. Take a break as far as if you can't actually go out and get one, then take advantage of when the kids are sleeping, you know? But make it work. Oh my God. You know what? I'm so done here. This is what ends up happening when I'm on audio. I never see the comments. Look at all these comments I didn't even see. Ah, cha. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me read some of the comments before I go to my next one. This is so funny. I don't know how this happens when I do audio. It's hard for kids with ADHD. Oftentimes they get better when they grow. One can also employ methods of psychology to enforce those values, like using extrinsic, extrinsic rewards. The animal's instinct can't be repressed when we do. They come out through other horrible means. Oh, I'm a single father, by the way. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And he says, I can relate. I love that. I love that you're able to relate to what I'm saying. And I totally understand what you're saying. I raised a child that was ADHD. I can write a whole book on that. So I definitely understand the struggle, how hard it can be for them and for you. And yeah, it does get better. In so many ways, it gets better when they grow. In other ways, it gets a lot harder. But it does get better. And that's why I put emphasis on that earlier, is that it gets easier if you do these things. If you're raising your children and you are not allowing them the chance to make mistakes, because you know what, some moms have been like, I would have my kids do chores, but they don't do it right. They don't clean up right, and I don't got time for that. But you're not allowing them the time, you're not allowing them the chance to make those mistakes. And so you're making it harder for you because you shouldn't be doing everything on your own. You should write a book on that. I definitely need it. Yeah, it's honestly it's one of my books that I want to write on. So you're really just confirming some stuff for me right now, because it's a whole nother level raising children with ADHD. I should do an episode on that for sure as well. So yeah, guys, I'm sorry I didn't even see these comments because I don't know what YouTube is doing, but my audio does not have my comments come up. So put yourself first. Also, remember that this is temporary. I think this is the most important thing with parenting in general, is remembering how temporary this is. This is such a temporary journey, you guys. Oh my God. I don't know where you guys are in your parenting journey as far as how old your children are, but speaking from my perspective, where I have a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old and all in between, I can definitely tell you that this time is so freaking short. It's almost too short, honestly. It's too short. And I tell the kids this. I tell them this when I am explaining to them the importance of embracing their childhood time. Because if you look at the expansion of our life as a human being, you are an adult way more years than you were a kid. You only spend a certain small percentage being a child, right? Even a teenager, still considered a child. You only spend a small portion of your life doing that, and then you spend the whole rest of your life being an adult. And so this is such a temporary journey for us as parents that are raising our children, that it's going to go so fast, as stressful as it can get, as overwhelming and overstimulating as it can be. It's going to be so fast. So one of the best things that I do for myself in maintaining my patience and just, staying grounded is reminding myself, like, man, like, my kids are going to be grown one day, like really soon. This is no longer going to be a thing. Like, Nkosino is still picking flowers for me because he's 5. My older children are not really thinking to do that as much because they're older now. So it really is temporary. It goes by too fast. And try and embrace these times, even the hard times in it, even within the hard times. Try to embrace these because your children are going to be so grown. And just like you, as an adult, have expressed to your parent how they've hurt you and the things that they've done, and even the good things that they've done, this is what your children are going to be doing for you soon. So try to remember that dynamic. I feel like us as humans, we're so disconnected from that because we're so like one-sided. We see 1% of what's going on. So we don't really think about how the position that we're in with our parents, where we want to form these relationships with them, or where we have these adult relationships with them, where we can talk about certain things, or even have a drink with our parents sometimes, or talk about sex more casually, or share certain things that you wouldn't as a kid. Like, these are the things that we are going to be having with them, and this is the kind of connections that you want to develop. So just remember that it's temporary, and hopefully that helps you with being more patient and having more grace on yourself. I have to look at my other device in order to read the comments. So let me go back. I wonder what the future. Let me highlight it. Oh, I can't highlight it. Oh, this is so crazy. Okay, I'll just read it. I wonder what the future of parenting would be. I have few predictions, but based on my prognosis of the future, it'll be way different from what it is now. It'll be easier to the point where parents won't be doing anything stressful. I also think conception and birth won't be a thing in the future, for humans at least. Wow. That's a really deep perspective. Yeah. Let me see what I think about that. I honestly, I don't know. I don't think I agree. I think that I don't know. Okay, well, because now, okay, at first I'm like, I don't agree. And then I think about where we're headed with gentle parenting and that whole thing, like how we're acknowledging mental health for kids. And that definitely is making things easier. So I guess I'm kind of on both ends of it, because on one end, I agree, I can see it being a lot easier. But then with everything that's going on, like social media, the thing about our parenting journey now is that we never had a world of parenting in social media. I actually have a book that I'm writing about protecting kids, and it goes further than protecting kids from predators. It goes into how we are in this new age of parenting where we don't know what it looks like to parent with TikTok and YouTube. We don't even know what it looks like until literally like the last 3 years of children at ages 1 and 2 having this almost like a drug addict response to YouTube, like a withdrawal response. We've never even seen that before. This is a new thing. Like, I don't even know if they have enough books written on it because it's so new for us. So on one end, I definitely agree. I think that because we are awakening into acknowledging our kids more, we're not so traditional with the, don't speak unless you're spoken to. And, you know, um, you're too young to have any nerves, stuff like that we used to be told when we were younger. I think that we're going out of that. And so it's definitely going to make parenting easier. We're talking about it more. Conversations like this are public now. But then on the other end, it's like, woo, I don't even know if we're ready. I don't even know if we're ready for how hard things are going to get because of the exposure of things and the way that these things are at our fingertips, and it's only going to grow. We're going into what do you call it? Not astral projector, but like 3D projectile screens, and the Apple goggles or the Google glasses or whatever. Like, I really see the future of us um having these things not even at our fingertips but at our mind tips. Like, we're going to be thinking of YouTube and it's going to pop up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like metaverse and its plans on what they plan on doing with social media and the internet, the whole 2.0 internet or whatever it is. But it's a lot. So I definitely see it being easier, and then I see in different ways that we're not ready for yet it being harder as well. But that was a really good perspective. Thank you for that. And hello, how are you? Smiley Co 78. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you guys. I had no idea. I was just going on and on. I'm like, okay, people will catch the replay. Yes, the advancements of AI and everything. So it's like, but does that make it easier though? Like, does AI, like, on some ends it will, and I believe on some instances it won't, because it's going to disconnect us from what we need to do, like the real connection that needs to take place. So yeah, that is really interesting. I think that, okay, so I'm down to my last two things that I want to mention about how we make our single parenting journey harder. Um, I said remembering that it's temporary. Okay, maybe three things. Well, this kind of goes into the other thing anyway. Is giving yourself grace, right? To give yourself grace, to set back. And I mean, honestly, guys, I'm giving y'all this advice about this one, and I am also, this is for me too, because I don't, let me careful with my words. I have not in the past given myself enough grace as a parent, as a single mom. I just haven't. And this year, this 2023 year, this was actually my goal for this year, for me to learn to give myself more grace. There has always been a thing, especially since, after splitting up my family and things like that, and people blame you for things, and you kind of don't even know that you get caught up in that. And so for a long time I would feel that, and I would, like, people would be like, you're such a great mom, like, you do so well with your kids, you should write a book and you should teach a class. And I started to resent this. Like, I started to resent hearing people compliment me on my motherhood. And I didn't realize that until like last year or the beginning of this year. And I was just like, yo, I got to shake this because it's an illusion. I talk a lot about us getting caught up in illusions of things based on our past and based on what people have told us, or and whatever else. And so giving yourself grace as a parent, I think, is one of the most important things that you could do, because if you're a parent like myself, where you're very intentional and you're not playing about where your children are headed and what you want for their future, then it's really easy for you to be hard on yourself, and it's really easy for you to be like, okay, yeah, like, I'm doing good there, but I'm not doing A, B, and C and D the way I want it. Especially if you haven't been able to stay on top of your stuff all the time, if you've had to transition throughout things and whatever else. I just think it's so important to give yourself grace. And I'm so grateful that this year, more than any year, even when I was married and I was, and I had the help in my home, I'm giving myself more grace than I ever have. I am taking out the time to really just thank myself as a parent and to congratulate myself, and it doesn't feel so cringy anymore. People used to compliment me, and I used to just be like, ugh, ugh, don't say that, like, don't say that. I'm not doing the best I can. I could be doing this and this and this. I wanted to do that by this time and this time. And that's just all an illusion. Your children are not even looking at it like that, and they won't even see it like that. Like, there's so many mistakes or things that my parents did that I know they wish they could take back, and I don't hold them to anything because I have so much grace for them. I have so much understanding, especially as me being a parent now. So it's like I look back and I'm like, oh, like this looked like this at that time. But thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that sacrifice. Thank you so much for, this and that. And so that's really how your children are going to see it. So give yourself grace and allow people to compliment you. I don't know if you have the same thing that I dealt with, but I am so grateful to overcome that. Like, that's no longer a thing for me where I'm not giving myself grace and where I'm feeling that way when people tell me. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, I might sound like a broken record with this because I probably say this on every Earth is School episode, but we have to meditate. We have to meditate. I honestly don't even know. Like, I feel like the earth is the way that it is as far as our human existence because we don't meditate. And we're raising up these souls. Every generation is blaming the next generation, but the last generation did not take out the time to connect with their inner dialogue, to be like, what am I feeling? What am I doing? Let me slow down. Let me ground myself. Let me have more control over my emotions. Let me not react. Let me realize that I do create my own reality, that I do have control over where my life is going. Let me tap into my intuition. Let me just quiet the chatter in my brain and listen to source, listen to God. That's my theory. My theory is that shit is fucked up because we don't meditate, okay? As far as on the subject of, like our human experience with each other, as far as like raising, generations and things like that. That's what I'm saying is that I don't even know how we do it. Like, it doesn't make sense because if you think about how many times in a day that you can be offended or you can be triggered or you can get upset or anything when it comes to your kids, and then you're not doing anything all day, every day to help you regulate that. It's no wonder you're snapping. It's no wonder you're being overwhelmed. It's no wonder you're locking yourself in the room like a lot of our parents did. It's no wonder you're battling constant depression. Yeah, 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 da, 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 right? A whole bunch, because I don't even care if it's 5 minutes, guys. You really do have to take that time to to quiet the chatter in your brain and to listen to source. Some people say that's what meditation is. For me, it's both. It's praying and it's listening to source. But just sitting there and quieting yourself and setting your intentions for the day. I think it's so important that parents meditate when we start our day. It's just as important as putting yourself first, because especially if you have more than one child, then you understand this. You can wake up and bills can be hitting you. You can be dealing with a personal thing out of your life or in a relationship with someone. It doesn't have to be intimate. And then the next thing you know, you get a knock on the door and one of the kids have this going on. Two of them are fighting. The other one is dealing with this. The other one just busted his head open. Like, this is really what's going on in a home of multiple children. How are you regulating that? Because weed is not going to do it enough. Alcohol is not going to do it. Like all the other ways that we try and cope, watching your shows, okay, binge watching, getting your favorite meal, none of these things are going to do it enough the way that meditation is going to do it. So I really, really encourage you guys, your parenting depends on it. Your parenting depends on you setting up for 5 minutes at minimum and just quieting the chatter in your brain. Just relaxing your body from head to toe, relaxing your full body. I'm giving you the steps now because some people, we don't really know what meditation looks like. Relaxing your body from head to toe, relaxing your head, relaxing your shoulders, breathing. And even if you cannot say, okay, I'm not going to focus on anything specific, focus on your breath. That's the easiest thing that you can do. If you have the air conditioning on, if you have a fan on, focus on that noise. This is how you quiet the chatter in your brain. Focus on the most muted noise that you can find, or your breath, and focus on that. If you can't do that because maybe you're just all over the place, focus on what feels good to you. This is how you quiet the chatter in your brain through meditation. Focus on what feels good. What feels good to me right now? Let me close my eyes for a second, relax my body. What feels good is whenever I'm doing this or whenever I have this going on. So let me only focus on that. I think this is crucial for us as parents. So I'm encouraging you guys to do so. It definitely is a game changer. Let me go back and see. Mm-hmm. I think parenthood is hard for humans because we are a new species here. Other older species don't have this problem. I think we can learn a lot from how our primate cousins from societies and raise their young. African hamlets are perfect for this. In a hamlet, kids are easy to be raised since the whole hamlet raises the kids. Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Imagine if Black people build communities like African hamlets where families, extended families, and friends can build communes and live in a hamlet to raise kids, resolve problems like how the elders do in Africa. In some places in Africa, yeah, for sure. There's a lot to learn from the countrysides or villages in Africa. Most definitely. Most definitely. That's why when I started this episode, I had to put emphasis on why single motherhood and single parenting in general is hard, outside of the obvious. The obvious is that we don't have a village, right? The obvious is that um you as a single father, that you need the feminine energy, the nurturing aspect, and that you as a single mother, that you need the masculine aspect, right? Those are obvious things. That is just like, that's what makes this thing a whole, like, ghetto. Okay, that's what makes parenthood ghetto, because we know that it's just not normal for you to have to do this on your own. And so even though there's so much truth to that, and I wish I could just push a button and have us all in those type of scenarios like you explained, where African tribes and African villages are doing that. Even one of my friends, what was the subject? We were talking about something not long ago that had to do with single parenthood. It had to do with Americans. And one of my African friends here said, why don't y'all just take the kids to the grandma's house? He's like, why don't y'all just let the grandma watch the kids? And I just cracked up laughing because I was like, you don't get it. You don't get it. Like there's barely any grandmas left. Like we're and the ones that are not watching the kids. They on TikTok. Okay, they got stuff to do. They got places to go. They in the club, or they just don't have time for that. So I most definitely agree. That's definitely a given that we need a village and that parenting would be so much easier if we did. And what's crazy about that too is that what I have found from my experience living here in Africa and seeing how my friends were raised with different aunties, most Africans, or I'll just say a lot of them, they don't look at their mom and their dad as just their mom and their dad. They look at their aunties, their older cousins. Those are also their mom and their dad. Like at any given day, you'll hear your African friend will be like, "Oh yeah, I got to go take my mom to the store," and it's like, "I thought your mom was in France." Oh yeah, it's my other mom, because they don't have that thing that we do where, first of all, where we're not in a village setting, or we don't we're not supporting each other. But then also I feel like Americans or people in the Western world, we are so used to the capitalist system that we would be offended by that. We don't even want the step parent to be called the mom. you know we get aggressive and offended by that. So it's like it's been so long of us having this hyper independence that I don't even think that we could go into that type of environment and thrive right away. Like it would take years of us having to comb through layers and let go of our ego and all that. Like I have a sister here, and this is like really like my sister from another mister. She is Senegalese American, and we talk about this all the time, how she grew up in a community of having multiple mothers and multiple fathers. And it's just so different. Like there's no ego in who you call your aunt and who you call your mom. And I just tell her all the time, like, that's not even a thing for us. Like people be ready to fight over those titles. So I think that's very interesting. Most definitely. So, yes, guys, please, I encourage you to meditate. It's going to change your life. Don't go on YouTube and meditate. I'm gonna tell y'all what this lady here, this channeler, she's from Cameroon and she lives here in Senegal. And what she told me when I first started using the singing bowl, she told me not to go on YouTube. She said, "Don't go on YouTube. Don't do any research about the sound bowl." She does sound bowl healing and stuff. And she said, "Don't go on YouTube. Connect with the bowl itself and go from there. Allow source, allow God to lead you through that." And that's my advice for you on meditation. Of course, unless you're watching my videos, because I break it down really, really well, and and I'm unbiased, and I've been through my own journey of what meditation is, and what it actually looks like what social media is giving, what all these gurus are giving. And so I just think that it's really important that you don't go off of what the media is telling you that meditation is. I think that a lot of people get overwhelmed with meditation because they think that they have to do it for a certain amount of time, just like prayer. You think that it has to be a certain amount of time, and you think that you have to like not focus on anything. It's a lot of misconceptions with this. This is what I do in the beginning of all my sessions is I ask people if they ever meditated, and whether they tell me yes or no, I ask them to forget everything that they thought they knew about meditation. Drop everything that you think you know, or that you know. So try not to be overwhelmed with what meditation is, and just sit there and be quiet. Just sit there. Don't even set a timer, because even that can make you think too much. Then you're sitting in meditation and you're thinking about when the alarm is going to go off, what time it is. Just sit there. Just give yourself that's giving yourself grace within itself, to just be able to sit there in peace and just listen to the fan, listen to the air conditioning, or focus on your breath and see what happens. The last thing that I wanted to mention, that I think that us parents, as single parents and single mothers, are doing that make our jobs harder, is we are not taking breaks from social media. There, I said it. You got to take breaks from social media. I am a social media influencer telling social media influencers and non-social media influencers who are parents that you got to take breaks from social media. Social media is a portal within itself. You guys have probably seen me talk about this. So you really are picking up on the energies that are coming through these screens. And I won't get too much into it, but it's a real thing. And so not only is that going to affect your energy and your day-to-day life, your feelings, the way you respond to things and stuff, but it's also a lot of influence on there. Like there's also a lot of people's opinions and a lot of debates about parenting and single parenting and what you should be doing as a parent and what you shouldn't be doing, all these different things. And then there's also this thing that I believe that not even just you being a parent, but just being a human being, when we go through things, we spend even more time on social media than we were when we weren't going through it. I see this all the time. I express this to my clients all the time. I believe that it's a defense mechanism or whatever you want to call it. You can say coping instead, a coping mechanism. And the best way that I describe it is couples. Like when couples get into arguments, often without them even noticing, you get into an argument with your partner and you go straight to social media. It's almost like a band-aid or a little quick fix. Like you literally might be finishing your last word because you want to get the last word, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And you're just like opening up your phone and you're just going through your phone and just default, like by default, you're just scrolling through. Because neuroscientists have proven that when you do these, when you scroll through and when you see your notifications, there are endorphins that are released. There's oxytocin and dopamine that is released. And so as parents, you're doing the exact same thing. You're being stressed with your children, stressed through life, and you're spending so much time on social media. And it's really important that you take breaks. I don't care how you do it. Sometimes I do breaks during my birthday season. You guys have seen me literally announce like I'm not going to be here during my Libra season. Sometimes I do um, like half a month. It just depends on how I feel. Before I started doing YouTube, I would this was a little bit crazy, but I really wanted to detach from social media. But I would not have my internet on my phone. Like I would only be on social media when I was at home, like regulating that. And I didn't want to have social media access when I would be outside of my house because I didn't want to like you're like standing in line waiting on something and then you don't have nothing else to do and you get on social media. So I actually would get books. That's how I started carrying around books with me, and I would get books and put them in my bag, and I would replace that with my time on social media. So find your way, find your way that is going to make it easier for you. Everyone is different, but I just want to encourage you to take more breaks from social media. Be more present with your children. This wasn't a thing before. We might have dealt with our parents being isolated from us for certain reasons, some of us, but they weren't on social media. It wasn't a thing. And because social media is its own matrix within itself, I believe that when we are dealing with situations in life, we just don't handle them to the depth that we could if we did not have social media. I just believe that there's just a different way. I mean, on the flip side of that, sometimes we're finding people that are helping us go through healing and helping us get out of that on social media, right? Okay, yes, of course. But there's also just this thing that we do on social media. I mean, with social media, where we are going through stuff and we spend more time than we should. We we go to social media to do a lot of expressing, and it's just like a band-aid for us. And I just think that, like, I'm just going off of my experience with coaching people, and I just find that a lot of our problems in our parenting journey, we would have more like clarity to solve them. I think that we would be able to hear the answers clearer if we spent less time on social media and more time quieting the chatter in our mind. That is my theory. So I want to encourage you guys to do that. Let me check the comments really quick because we're about to get out of here. It has been an hour and 15 minutes. Let me see. Facts, it's a part of of our liberal doctrine. Yep, individualism. That's right. Most definitely, especially in Western countries or Western parts of the world. I mean, um, John Locke. Oh, I know John Locke. I think I know John Locke. I think I was just watching some videos not too long ago. I think that's just this guy that I just followed. Does he talk about parenting a lot? No, I don't burn Nak Champa. Nak Champa, no. I don't think I've heard of that. And the breathing techniques that I use, he asks what are the breathing techniques that I use. The breathing techniques that I use, um, I have some from a doctor named Joe Dispenza. I love Joe Dispenza. You may know him. And he does really good breathing techniques that I've implemented in my practice. And it's like where he does the breathing technique that where you can, what is it called? The spinal fluid, where you push the spinal fluid up your spine to the center of your brain, and it goes back down. Something that naturally happens, what I think twice a day for us, and it just balances you out. It feeds your, you can call it pineal gland or whatever, but it feeds the center of your brain. It gives you an oxytocin releases and different endorphins. And so I love the way he breaks that down. And I have a video on that. Me and the kids do that practice together. I wish I can link the videos here, but most definitely that's my main technique that I use, because I tried it a few times during my meditation and it was life changing. It made a big difference in helping me go into my alpha theta state a lot faster. So that's the reason why I decided to develop it and share it with you guys. Oh my God. Oh, and then all the comments come up now. Okay, I'm still in here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting here talking. And now the comments come up. What is that? That must be like a YouTube, what you call it, thingy. Oh, okay. Okay, right. So I get what you were asking, like the actual details. Yes. So he says the method I use is to inhale. I think I can highlight the comment now. Yeah. Inhale, hold for 8 seconds, hold for 8 to 12 seconds, exhale for 8. I guess you can say that's the same thing I do then. I just didn't think to give like those details. But yeah, holding the breath. And that's what I meant by you take it up into your the base of your spine, and then you release it to release the spinal fluid. That right there is some powerful stuff. Holding your breath, it sounds so like, okay, why would I do that? But when you breathe in and you hold it, it's something about, I mean, it has a lot to do with your spinal cord fluid, but it definitely opens up chambers in your brain, and you can feel the difference. Sometimes you might feel a little lightheaded in the beginning, but you can feel the difference in your core, in your brain, and just throughout your body. Just that wind flowing in between your body and you holding it, suppressing and then releasing it. There's so much power to that. So most definitely, you guys, if you don't have time to meditate or you're just not getting with it, then do that. Hold your breath. And I guess I'm just not too big on like the time, because I just like do it. It's like how I season food. Do it until you feel it. Do it until it tastes good. But most definitely, you guys, try that. I encourage you to try some breathing techniques and definitely meditate. So that is it, you guys. I didn't even want this episode to be that long, but I really appreciate you guys coming in and chopping it up with me, connecting with me. Oh, my bad. That mosquito was real. And if you guys like this episode of Earth is School, then please hit the like button. Feel free to send a super thanks to my channel. Share if you feel like this was useful, like someone else could use this knowledge and this information. I feel like there were so many jewels dropped and so many important, like vital, like just, I don't even know what you want to call them, necessities to going on this parenting journey that honestly, I don't even have to name this a single parenting episode, because I think that everything I said is crucial for every parent, no matter if you're in a relationship or not, if you're doing it on your own or not. But I really appreciate you guys. And I am going to be tuning into you guys tomorrow. Is my goal. And so thank you so much for coming through. I love you guys. Again, like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And thank you so much for rolling with a sister. Peace out.